Ever get startled awake by hedge clippers before your first sip of coffee? That's how my quiet life derailed. Not to birds chirping or peaceful suburban hums, but the sharp double snip-snip of garden shears and the booming voice of a woman belting out, "We are the champions," like she'd just snagged gold in the Olympic yard games. Nobody asked her to join in. I nearly dropped my coffee, stumbled outside still in pajama pants, and there she was, Karen from the HOA board, perched on a wobbling plastic stool in bright yoga pants, hacking a person-sized hole through my 7-foot privacy hedge. She flung a bunch of leaves over her shoulder, turned with a smug grin, and said, "Just making it easier for everyone, sweetheart." Then added a flippant, "You're welcome." Right then I knew. My peace and quiet had just expired. What followed would turn me into the HOA's living nightmare. Name's Marcus. Just 3 months earlier, I'd finally snagged my dream home. A cozy, private escape technically outside the HOA's reach, just 4 feet beyond their mapped jurisdiction. I worked from home, loved my privacy, and that hedge was my buffer from the world. A green fortress, but Karen's chainsaw diplomacy changed everything. I told her straight up to get off my land. She puffed up like some suburban peacock and announced she was the landscaping coordinator for the HOA. Like that gave her some divine right to mutilate my greenery. She claimed the hole was for community convenience, a shortcut to the clubhouse. I reminded her this was private property. She shrugged. "It'll save people almost 45 seconds. I swear if smugness was a sport, Karen would win gold annually." That night, my inner software engineer kicked in. I patched the hedge, installed a motion sensor camera, and tried to get some sleep. At 2:47 a.m., the sensor lit up. And guess who showed up on the footage? Bathrobe, slippers, dragging a ladder like a thief in a spa commercial, snipping away my fix with gusto. She even winked at the camera and mouthed, "Nice try." I called the cops. The officer sounded mildly interested but clearly thought it was a sitcom. "Technically trespassing," he admitted. "But unless she leveled a tree, no one's pressing charges." So, apparently cutting a tunnel through someone's hedge was now neighborly behavior. The next day she returned, clipboard in hand, measuring wheel, like she was mapping a colonial conquest. Said she had verbal approval from the HOA president to create a community corridor. When I asked for proof, she scoffed and warned me to watch my tone before stomping off, muttering about how new folks never respect the vision. I emailed the HOA, included photo evidence, videos, even zoning codes. Got one dry sentence back. "We are aware and reviewing the matter with legal counsel." Translation, "We're not lifting a finger." Fine. I went full defense mode. Bought fast-growing shrubs. Reinforced the gap with wood. Posted private property signs. Called a zoning official. He chuckled. "You're good, Marcus. They can't touch that side. Not under their control." I exhaled. Thought I'd finally won. Until I got a courier envelope. Formal HOA violation notice, accusing me of creating a visual obstruction. Photos were included, clearly taken from inside my yard. So they trespassed again. This time with a camera. I drafted a reply, highlighted the official survey map. In bold, I wrote, "Any further action on my property violates city code. Kindly direct future complaints to my attorney." That night, someone egged my mailbox. Real subtle. Later, my backyard mic picked up Karen's voice, clear as day. "If that man doesn't take down that green monstrosity, I'll handle it myself. We've had enough of his attitude." I sent the audio to my lawyer buddy. He laughed and offered to file a cease and desist. But I wasn't content with defense anymore. I wanted an endgame. The next morning, sipping my coffee and staring at the ragged gap in the hedge, I got my idea. Iron. A 10-foot black decorative iron fence. Sleek, legal, and Karen-resistant. I visited a metalworks guy who looked like he made weapons for Viking kings. Told him I needed something no nosy neighbor could mess with. He grinned and sketched a design. Ornamental, sharp, legal. City approved it within the week. Turns out, there's no rule against tastefully hostile fencing. The day it arrived, the street's whole energy shifted. Welders unloaded panels. Karen came storming out like a soap opera villain, bathrobe, sunglasses, clipboard, barking orders. "You can't do this. Halt that construction." The crew ignored her. She turned on me, voice high and panicked. "You're putting up prison bars." I calmly handed her the permits. Laminated. Survey. Legal proof. "This is decorative fencing," I said. "Approved by the city. On my land. Unlike your clippers, this is legal." She stood frozen, lips twitching, realizing she had no more moves. Over the next 2 days, the fence rose like a monument. Neighbors nodded in approval. One even brought wine. Whispered, "We've all wanted to do this for years." Karen circled, took photos, held emergency HOA meetings, but the work didn't stop. On day 3, they slapped a violation notice on my door demanding I appear before the board. I laughed so hard I almost dropped my screwdriver. Their authority ended 4 feet before my line. Ask ChatGPT. It all started with someone trying to enforce rules in my yard, like arresting a tourist for jaywalking in another country. I printed out the map, my permit, and the zoning inspector's number, dropped the packet off at the HOA office with a smile. That night, Karen was in her backyard, pacing, calling me a traitor, hurling pebbles at the fence like some kind of curse. Then came her most dramatic disaster. During the construction crew's lunch break, I heard a loud thud followed by a yell. There she was, stuck, half dangling over the new iron fence. One slipper missing, frozen in place as if the spikes were knives. She tried to climb it and lost her nerve halfway up. I had to call the fire department. 2 firefighters arrived, doing their best to stay serious while they helped her down, but everyone in the neighborhood saw it. And someone recorded it. That video, Iron Karen's Great Escape, exploded across the local Facebook groups that night. By the next morning, she was the community's favorite joke. Next, the HOA sent me a letter practically begging me to find a less aggressive approach to neighborhood peace. I sent it back with a single note. Respecting boundaries is a two-way street. That weekend, she called an emergency HOA board meeting in her backyard, with folding chairs, lemonade, and a speaker system, trying to rally support. I watched from my living room, popcorn in hand, as members walked out one by one. She lost them the moment she shouted, "He built a fortress to hide something illegal." By Monday, the fence was finished. It was beautiful, elegant ironwork, solar lights, vines. One neighbor called it modern art. Someone else asked for the fence designer's number. Karen had to pass it every day now, a reminder of her failure. But even with locks and cameras, I noticed people sneaking through the gate. HOA members, Karen included, were using my yard as a shortcut to the clubhouse for their evening yoga and wine meetups. So I upgraded the lock to a keypad. The next morning, Karen was at the gate punching buttons, then texting frantically when it wouldn't open. I got an HOA email demanding the access code for community continuity. I nearly choked on my coffee. They weren't trying to keep peace. They wanted to keep running their secret operation. I got curious and wandered by the clubhouse one evening. Karen was there, leading a yoga class for a dozen people, wine glasses on the floor, fairy lights twinkling. I checked online, found a private Instagram account called HOA Flow, $10 a class. Her little side gig using HOA property, no license in sight. I made a quick anonymous call, zoning violations, fire code infractions, the works. Inspectors showed up mid-class. Lights off, wine capped, everyone sent home. A red cease and desist notice went up on the door the next day. Her wellness empire was toast. But she wasn't done. A few nights later, she spray-painted the word fascist in blood red across my fence. The security camera caught her, clear as day. Cops fined her for vandalism. Then came the rumors. I was an ex-con, a spy, a government mole. Unlike her, I had backup. My cousin Jonah, a TV judge, came by, took a selfie with the fence and posted it with the caption, "Respect the iron. Respect the boundary." That photo? Viral. Suddenly, I wasn't the villain, I was the guy who stood up. People thanked me. Karen became a warning story. But she had one final stunt. An anonymous petition slipped under my door, claiming the fence was dangerous. Half the signatures were in the same handwriting. One was from someone who'd moved away years ago. Another, a neighbor who'd died last year. I checked my cameras, and there she was again, flashlight in one hand, wine in the other, forging names at midnight. I sent the footage to the city attorney. 48 hours later, Karen was facing municipal fraud charges. The newly elected HOA board, finally free of her, issued a public apology, revoked all her access, banned her from events, and printed out her sanctions for every single house in the neighborhood. I taped mine to my window for a week, just in case she needed a reminder. Then came Fence Fest, my celebration, invitations only, jazz trio, food truck, neighbors laughing, swapping Karen's stories. Someone even brought a cake shaped like the fence. Karen? She watched from her window. No clipboard, no megaphone, just silence. When the city filed charges, her defense was a half-hearted plea of misunderstanding. The judge didn't buy it. She was fined, cited, and her whole saga ended up on the evening news, a full recap of trespassing, yoga scams, fence drama. This wasn't revenge. This was long overdue accountability. And it changed the neighborhood. People relaxed. Kids played again. No one panicked about fines over a misplaced trash bin or flower bed. And me? I planted flowers by the fence, built a wooden arch with private property etched in it. Neighbors I'd never met dropped by with cookies, thanked me. Even new residents said hearing my story made them feel welcome. In the end, it wasn't about beating Karen. It was about proving that boundaries matter. That sometimes the quiet one just needs to show some iron. Entitlement doesn't hold up against resolve. Property lines are real. Respect is earned. And when someone tries to dig into your life uninvited, sometimes the best answer is a fence strong enough to outlast their nonsense.